Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to even more iRacing action here on the National Racing Network. Tonight, we've got the Shock Series here at the Mecca for the Indy Pro 2000 cars, Indianapolis Raceway Park. The art is formerly known as O'Reilly Raceway Park and currently known as Lucas Oil Raceway Park. This track has lots of names, but it's the home of the Indy 500 for drag racing, the equivalent of the Indy 500 for the Indy Pro 2000s, and basically everything in between. This track is what starts off Memorial Day weekend for the race fans all across the globe with Carb Night Classic on the Friday night. It's one of my absolute favorite tracks to go to. Right now, qualifying is underway for the Indy Pro 2000 cars. Very short qualifying session these guys run, but it is a 2-lap average. So you have 2 laps to go out there and you have to score time on both of them. And if one of them sucks, then your average sucks and you're not going to be on pole. Brian Labarge going to be the first car to take his fastest set of 2 laps. So he'll be your pole sitter by default right now with an 18.862. Currently quickest is going to be Nick Camargo with an 18.880, 7 thousandths of a second slower as Wes Shire. Vic Aldrich going to be 4th quick, and Matthew Johnson in the 404 machine going to be 5th quick so far. Looking along with JJ Wang as he finishes up his 2nd lap. See where this time puts him on the charts. Out of turn number 4. It's going to be an 18.990. Good enough for 6th quick so far. Jason Miller now going out on the racing surface out of turn number 4. Starts his first set of timed laps. You'll notice the fast line around here is somewhere in the middle to the high side. Not going to see a lot of drivers going way low, and that makes it a ton of fun here for these cars because you can get that slide job set up, go way lower than everyone else, and slide up in the racetrack in front of them. Could cause for a bunch of carnage here tonight, though. Jason Miller finishes up his first time lap. That one's going to be an 18.971. Now, it does have to be 2 time laps, so this one would have to be even quicker than pole sitter's average to get himself on the pole. Second lap is going to be a 19.142, so that's going to put him in the 8th position. No other drivers out on the racetrack. The number 9 machine of Derek Catt still needs to go out there and set time. James Watson still has not been out on the circuit to set time. And neither has Taylor Daniels. So 3 cars we're still waiting on. Drivers do have the option to qualify or not to qualify here in the PM18 Shock Series. So if you think starting in the back of the field, not setting a time is the best way to go, you're more than welcome to do that. James Watson, however, does not think that's the way to go. He's going to enter the racing circuit and try to see what he can do. He comes out of turn number 4 on his out lap. Straight lines off of turn number 2 into turn number 3. Again, keeping the car very high up, bringing it right to that middle groove, kind of right in the center line of the car on those dotted lines for bringing it back out to the outside wall. Only 34 seconds left to complete a qualifying time. This is going to be his 2nd time lap. Brings the car a little bit lower there in the turns number 1 and 2. See what kind of line he takes in 3 and 4. Same thing, decides to go lower than those dotted lines. Kind of a weird low line we're seeing out of some of these drivers here tonight. But that time is going to be good enough for 7th quick with an average time of a 19.009. So right in the mid-pack for James Watson. Nobody else going to go out and take some time. So, Nick Camargo is going to be your pole sitter in the number 59 machine out of Brazil. Is going to be Nick Camargo. To his outside is New York's own Wes Shire in the number 16 machine. Row number 2 will have the pair of Michael Long and Brian Labarge. Behind them will be the 24 machine of Stephen Thompson and Dave Sparks, pair of Midwesterners. I guess if you consider Indiana the Midwest, I believe it is. Yeah, there's lots of corn there. It's definitely the Midwest. James Watson in the number 39 machine, starting alongside teammate J.J. Wang in the number 61 car. Row number 5 will have Jason Miller on the inside and Vic Aldrich, another TWR driver. Peter Johnchak and Matthew Johnson going to start 11th and 12th respectively. I thought Watson was about to stall there. I would have made fun of him so hard. It's so much fun to do here on the broadcast. He makes it very easy for us. Hopefully not going to give us an I don't wreck when I do this moment here, though. And finally, your final row on the grid of your field of 14 cars is going to be Derek Catt and Taylor Daniels. As lights are out on the iRacing safety car, it's going to be green flag this time by. Only one pace lap here for these drivers. Nope, there's going to be 2 pace laps, I guess. We extended the caution period. Going to be a night race here at Indianapolis Raceway Park, as this is known as the Tuesday Night Thunder Series. See the headlights on the pace car illuminating the racetrack. There is lighting here at IRP, but it's not nearly as good as some of your bigger name tracks like Daytona. Martinsville has really nice lighting setup now. Here at IRP, you get just a couple of parking lot lights scattered throughout the racetrack. Pace car takes the dive onto the pit lane, though. Very long turns 3 and 4 before they get to take the checkered or the green flag. Long time before they take the checkered flag too, but they go into the restart box. Green flag is going to wave, and Nick Camargo gets to jump off of the restart. Very eager to move up to that high side, block off Wes Shire from getting anything done there. James Watson very aggressive on the start. Almost contact there between Brian Labarge and Wes Shire in the turn number 3. Wes Shire having the dive low on the racing circuit. James Watson now moving his way up into the 3rd position. Brian Labarge going to fall back to the 4th spot. Watson on a charge, trying to get to the top spot. He's broken his way into the top 3, going to try and make a move on the low side on Wes Shire. Not sure he realizes that this is a 50-minute long race. It's not a sprint race here tonight, but he has come very close to winning the championship in the past. So I think he does know that, and he's going to have his own strategy to try and get there and win this thing. Currently, the fastest lap of the race is going to be Nick Camargo's last lap at a 19:011. These cars tend to get faster before they get slower. With a full tank of fuel, these things are much, much heavier than they are with an empty tank of fuel, and these tires seem to get better and better as laps go by. Nick Camargo, once again, going with an even quicker lap. That's going to be an 18:941. We are approaching qualifying times now, as these Cooper radial tires do tend to find the sweet spot. As the more and more laps get off, the tires get hotter and hotter right before they find a cliff. Nick Camargo absolutely running away from James Watson. He clearly has the fastest car on the grid tonight. James Watson going new quick time, but he's still going to be 0.7 of a second behind Nick Camargo. James Watson with an 18:813. Close battle on track for the 3rd spot, though. That's going to be between Wes Shire and Brian Labarge. Side by side across the start-finish line. That lap's going to go to Wes Shire, though. Oh man, huge save by Michael Long. I am not sure how he kept that car pointed in the right direction. Let's see if we can get another replay of that. Had a little bit of help there. Catches the car, keeps it outside the outside retaining wall. Everyone seems to get by him just fine. He's going to fall all the way back to the 12th position. But his night's not over. That car does not look like it has any damage on it. So we will cut back to the live look. Once again, still a battle going on for the 3rd position. At the head of that battle is going to be Wes Shire, followed by Brian Labarge, and right behind them is going to be the number 61 of JJ Wang. The car we saw make a little bit of contact there with Mike Long. Very aggressive move out of JJ to the inside. Going to try and get it by Brian Labarge in that NASA number 8 machine. Going to be side by side across the line. That lap, I believe, has to go to Brian Labarge, though. Once again, JJ's going to try the far inside line, trying to get in front of Brian Labarge. Not quite able to clear him down the back straightaway. You can see just how much of an extra run that back straightaway gives you if you take the high line. But this time the lap is going to go to JJ Wang. He's going to be your 4th position car as he's trying to make the 2-for-1 special there on the low side. Now edging out in front of Wes Shire, not quite ahead of him though. And Wes Shire having the back out of it, almost getting in that outside wall. JJ Wang moves himself up into the 3rd position. If you're worried about the battle for the lead, you're not missing much. That gap's still just about 3/4 of a second between Nick Camargo and James Watson. And that gap is over 3 seconds between JJ Wang and James Watson. So closest battle on track is going to be here between 3rd and 7th. As we actually move down to the battle for the 6th position between Stephen Thompson and Jason Miller. Here tailing this little peloton they've got building up. Already 5 minutes into this race. Not a caution yet. Lots of action going on, though. As the TNT Shock Series never fails to put on a good show, especially here at IRP. JJ Wang starting to run away a bit from Wes Shire. Tonight's race might turn into a bit of a strategy race, maybe a fuel economy race, with the way these guys are all spreading out, almost like it's a road course event. If they stay green all the way to the end, it is estimated that we're going to run 159 laps here. So a bit longer of a race than we saw out of the Sprint Car Cup. But these guys are able to change tires on a pit stop, and they are able to add fuel to the cars as well. They do run a reduced fuel tank here for the Shock Series, so only about 6 gallons of fuel going in these machines. I believe that it's going to require 2 pit stops here tonight. However, if these drivers can make it to the 25-minute mark on this tank of fuel, then it'll only have to be a one-stop race unless they decide to pit for an extra set of tires towards the end, maybe with a late race caution. But Brian Labarge closing the gap now on Wes Shire, going to try and take the dive to the inside. They're going to get side by side coming off of turn number 4 here. Wes is going to be the first one across the line, but Brian thinks about it, decides otherwise against going to the inside, trying to get alongside Wes Shire. Going to duck back into the slipstream down the back straightaway. It's going to be single file the entire way through the field. Brian Labarge now going to try the move once again, running a little bit lower right in that middle line, the qualifying line we saw out of a lot of our drivers. But ducks back in and sits single file. So be right on board with Brian Labarge as he follows along Wes Shire. See if he can get a move set up. Maybe here where he's doing a little bit of a better job than Wes. Maybe a little bit of a worse job. As Wes actually slides up, almost kisses that outside wall. but he's able to carry so much more speed just by running way up high there, running away from Brian in the corner. Brian closes the gap, though, as they hit the mid-corner, but once again, just starting to lose it a little bit on the exited turn because of the much shallower corner he's taking. Mesmerizing hearing these little four cylinders scream for every ounce of horsepower they can get at this track. This is a super speedway for these cars. Anything larger than this, such as when we go to Iowa, even some of the bigger tracks, occasionally we run Motegi, these things are just screaming the entire time. But here, it's a lot of the same speeds, but with how much flatter this track is and how much shallower the corners are, you really have to touch the brakes a little bit, back out of the throttle, and then try and put it all back down. Once again, running a little bit lower than West Shire. I almost wonder if that's an effort to save the tires. West Shire actually getting into the wall there a little bit. Brian's going to try and dive down to the inside, get the move done. As he does slide in front of West Shire. Now we watch on board from the number 16 machine of Shire. He's going to try and get the crossover done on Brian Labarge. Not able to make that happen, though. As our battle box does not seem like it wants to work. There we go. That should be working a little bit better there. As we can now watch the battle going on between Brian Labarge and West Shire. Brian Labarge starting to run away from Shire, though. So right as we get the battle box working, there's no longer a battle going on. I do not foresee that to be the way the rest of this race goes, though, as cautions could breed more cautions. Haven't seen one yet, but it's not unheard of to have one here at these short tracks. Or as the fuel cycling goes on, pit stops are going to shake up the way this field is running. Currently, Nick Camargo is still leading all the way on the other side of the racetrack from J.J. Wang in the third position. James Watson going to be over a second behind him as they come out of turn number 4. Backing it up to J.J. Wang in the turn number 3. He is going to be your third place car. Almost 3 seconds back from race leader Nick Camargo. We back it up even more. Brian Labarge just exiting turn 4 now, and just behind them is going to be the pair of Dave Sparks and West Shire running side by side for the 5th and 6th position, respectively. West Shire just seems to be battling with a very, very tight race car. Constantly getting up, just barely brushing that outside wall. Almost wonder if he's knocked the toe out of that machine a little bit. As Dave Sparks now easily getting by West Shire. Going to try and run away with it. Stephen C. Thompson in the 24 machine now going to try and get by Wes. Wes just slipping back through this field a little bit. As we look along with race leader Nick Camargo as he goes around the backstretch, this next time by, he will already have elapsed 40 laps in this race. Incredible pace these drivers are still achieving, Doesn't appear to be any fall off. That last lap was a 19.1.0. Right behind him is James Watson with a 19.011. So not very far off their best lap time and not far at all from their qualifying times. So knowing that, with only about 12 minutes till halfway, I think this is only going to be a one-stop race, 4 tires. Not sure on the fuel number quite yet. We'll have to see when cars start diving down pit road. James Watson starting to close the gap. It's almost close enough that you could see it in one camera frame as they go down the straightaways. Down the front stretch, though, absolutely no way you can see Larry Sleater, Nick Camargo. That gap now down to about 1 second. So Watson slowly but surely picking away at the lead. Closest battle on track is going to be between Stephen C. Thompson and Wes Shire. Wes gets the huge dive in the turn number 3. Stephen Thompson backing out of it. Going to try and get the crossover done. Nowhere near close enough to make it happen, though, as they cross the start-finish line. So Wes Shire reclaiming the 6th position. Now all he's got to do is chase down half a second and find Dave Sparks up there and get by him. So just over 35 minutes remain. Just about 10 minutes until the halfway mark, where we're going to see a lot of these drivers, I think, start to come down the pit lane. Nick Camargo stretching the gap even further now over James Watson. That gap now about to 1.2 seconds, 1.3 seconds that time as they cross the start-finish line. Still looking at your closest battle on track, this time being between Stephen Thompson and Jason Miller. So Thompson now sliding back through the field a little bit. Wes Shire trying to make the move on Dave Sparks. Seems like he's found a little bit of extra speed in that car from somewhere. Maybe he was saving it up from earlier. As once again gets the huge dive in the turn number 3. Going to slide up in front of Dave Sparks. He moves himself back into the 5th position. Next car up for Wes Shire is going to be Brian Labarge. That gap at right about 0.8 of a second. Going to have a lot of work to do if he wants to catch Brian Labarge and retake that 4th position. Matthew Johnson going to be your first car, 1 lap down in the 12th spot. An unfortunate start to his night. Getting a little bit of contact with JJ Wang, getting up almost into the outside wall. There's no damage on that car, but unfortunately he's out of any draft, any battle. And with caution laps not counting, I don't believe there's a way for him to get that lap back unless he finds some nitrous or something. No, excuse me, in the 50-minute races, caution laps do in fact count. So I guess he could get a lucky dog, maybe not pit when everyone else does, get himself back in the lead lap, and hope for another caution that allows him to stop down the pit lane. But right now, you're watching the battle between Jason Miller and Dave Sparks. Dave Sparks in that white and green machine on the inside, chasing down the number 3 car. Those two were swapping positions back and forth a little bit ago. Stephen C. Thompson right behind them in the number 24 machine. Thompson now all over the rear wing of Sparks. Going to dive to the inside, see if he can get something done in turns 1 and 2. He does clear him. Does he slide up in front and secure the spot? Yes, he does. Down the back straightaway, Stephen Thompson moving up to the 7th position. Sparks going to fight right back for it. Dives to the inside. Not able to get anything done down the front stretch, but we've been seeing a lot of moves come in the turns 3 and 4 end of the racetrack. Not so much happening in turns 1 and 2. This gap between these guys now all lengthens up. Wes Shire appears like he has caught Brian Labarge. That gap down to under 1/4 of a second. Westshire right on the rear gearbox of Brian Labarge, relatively speaking, from where he was before. Lap traffic, that's going to be the car of Vic Aldrich in front of these pair. I do like the old Williams scheme he has on it, but it's an Ayrton Senna scheme and it's an F1 scheme, so I believe that disqualifies him from tonight's race. I think we'll let him run anyway because it's a historic scheme, but I'll have to double check the rules on what we say about F1 schemes. It is one of my favorite Formula 1 liveries, though, so I will let it slide. And he's out on track, so obviously race control let it slide, so I think he's all right. Driver who might not be all right, though, is Brian Labarge. Now, with Westshire finding some extra speed in that car, he was able to chase down Labarge. He's got to find a way around him. But Westshire is a very intimidating driver to be in front of. He will take up every ounce of your rearview mirror and just sit there and play chess with you until you make a mistake. He is a multi-time Shock Series champion, and there is a reason for it. Very methodical, very, very calculated driver. He's not going to make a move or take a risk that he doesn't have to. Half the revolution of a minute hand remaining. It's only going to be 30 minutes to go as they cross the line this time. Race leader Nick Camargo has already run 63 laps in tonight's race. Stephen C. Thompson actually just setting the fastest lap on the speedway in the draft of Jason Miller. But your race leader is going to be all the way at the other end of the racetrack, entering the back straightaway. That is going to be Nick Camargo in the 59. Still going to be James Watson in the second position. JJ Wang going to be almost 2 seconds behind him in the third position. Brian Labarge, you can see him just peeking into the frame. He's going to come across the line in fourth. Westshire going to come across in fifth. Jason Miller just behind those drivers. This pair, it's triplet of drivers. It's going to be Jason Miller, Stephen Thompson, and Dave Sparks still jostling around for the sixth position. And caution is out on the speedway. We talked about the Ayrton Senna scheme, and unfortunately, he is going to be in the wall. If we could find the driver of that car. That's going to be the 404 of Matthew Johnson, as I pick through every driver on my list of timing and scoring cars. Matthew Johnson just getting low on the racetrack. That was right in front of race leader Nick Camargo, too. Very lucky for Nick Camargo, but very textbook spin in these open wheel cars. Squares it up with the outside wall, and unfortunately that's going to be night done. You can see only that right rear tire spinning. These are limited slip differential, so that means he broke the axle on the left rear side. Fortunately, that is irreparable. So as the field dives down pit lane, in the first season of the TNT Shock Series, you were not allowed to do that. You can only drive through 3 pit boxes. Now it is unenforced. You can kind of drive through as many as you want. Nick Camargo puts the car up on the jacks, gets some new tires on that machine, and drives away. Surprised to see a lot of cars not pitting. Or, ooh, they did pit. Nick Camargo, I guess, pitting on the second round of pit stops. James Watson now going to be in the second position, along with Stephen Thompson in third, Dave Sparks in fourth. Notably, Wes Shire not coming down pit lane. Why don't we have a word with current race leader Wes Shire? See if we can figure out what's going on in his head. Oh, man. So all you viewers at home, don't worry, all your devices are still plugged in. That is just Wes Shire messing with everyone. But not messing with everyone, or maybe you are, you have not come down the pit lane. Staying silent on the matter is Wes Shire, but we do see that car entering the pit lane, so maybe just going out there, getting some extra bonus points for leading the lap. Still going to stay silent.
Hello?
Oh, there we go.
Hello? Can you hear me now?
There he is.
Hello? Got me?
We were wondering what you were doing there, not coming down into the pit lane.
Yes, as a matter of fact, just pulling an alternate pit strategy, I believe. I'm now good to go on fuel, and I think everyone else has either a ton of save or just can't make it. And apparently I have optional repairs. I did not factor that in. This is going to be interesting.
Yes, I believe it was lap 10. You smacked the outside wall a little bit. But
yeah,
are you saying if we would have stayed green, nobody would have made it to the 25-minute mark?
I think people would have made it to the 25-minute mark, but I don't think that people would have made it quite to the end from here without... Right now, they might. We'll see. But this is my only play. So here we go.
Well, best of luck. Field is back under green. We'll drop Wes back down to the voice chat with all of the other drivers. James Watson taking a very early lead off of the restart. Stephen Thompson right behind him. So very interesting by Wes Shire. You know, coming into the pits late, trying to get as much fuel into that car, getting that little bit of optional damage repaired, and seeing if it works out for him. And James Watson going to try and run away from the field again. Nick Camargo leading almost every lap in this race to this point. Going to be stuck back there in the 5th position. See if he can get that car up through the field once again. And McCullen checking in earlier, saying car 59 and 39 to post-race tech, suspecting illegal engines. So seeing if that is the case, or maybe it was just a case of clean air. The best drug a race car can get is clean air, and they had lots of it up there. Let's see how those cars perform in all of the traffic. Wes Shire going to be right behind Nick Camargo, fighting side by side with JJ Wang for the 6th position. Wes with that crazy strategy play. Now he's got all the damage fixed on that car, seeing if he can make it up through this field as well. Nick Camargo proving that race car is still fast, trying to sneak underneath of the number 21 machine of Mike Long. Wes Shire going to dive to the inside of that car, though, and block him from making that move on the inside of the number 21 car. James Watson not able to be as dominant as he was before. Still only 0.3 of a second ahead of second place Stephen C. Thompson. Dave Sparks going to be on the 3rd spot at the podium. So we slide back just a little bit. Nick Camargo once again trying to get underneath the 21 car. Wes Shire going to dive underneath of him now. Side by side in the turn number 3. Almost sliding up the racetrack in the knee. Has to back out of it. Was Wes Shire. Wes once again taking a peek to the inside. Backs out of it. See a big wiggle out of that car, having to chase that car all around the racing circuit, keep it in one piece. Does a fantastic job, though. No cause for alarm. That is multi-time Shock Series champion Wes Shire behind the wheel of that machine. Side by side once again in the turn number 3. This time going to try and stick with it, stay underneath of Nick Camargo, side by side across the line, but has back into that high line. As we look, race leader James Watson is being hounded by Steven C. Thompson in his mirrors. Thompson not letting him get away to a huge gap, that gap remaining at about a quarter of a second. As the whole field now is single file the entire way through. Nick Camargo falling about a second back from, Mike Long falling a second back from Dave Sparks, who is your current fastest car on the racing circuit. So Nick having a little bit of trouble here in this dirty air. Once again, peaks to the low side of the 21 car. Almost contact between those two. That was too close to tell if they were making contact. But once again, side by side down the back straightaway, just millimeters apart. Finally able to edge out in front of the 21 car. He's going to be side by side at West Shire now. But coming across the line by himself. Has about a second gap to the number 00 of Dave Sparks. Seeing if that bit of clean air allows him to close the gap up to Sparks and get himself back in the fight for a podium in tonight's event. Dave Sparks, though, once again going new quick time. That is going to be an 18.769, so a fresh set of tires on these things makes all of the difference. Steven Thompson going purple in Sector 2 of the previous lap, but slower in Sector 1. Not going to be a fast time out of him. Still a heater, though. Going to be an 18.951. These top three are starting to break away from fourth position Nick Camargo, a car so dominant in the early parts of this race. Not quite able to make it happen here in the second half. But still 20 minutes of racing remaining before we could decide a winner. So lots of time for him to get back up. Lots of time for another caution to come out and shake this field up. Steven Thompson now closing the gap under 0.2 of a second between him and James Watson. To right on board, looking just behind the left front tire. So he's going to look low of James going into turns number 3 and 4. Not able to get anything done. Possibly a better look to be seen out of the right front tire since he's running a little bit lower. Now you can see James Watson on the high side. Big twitch there out of the number 24 car of Steven Thompson. Has to correct and save it. Doesn't lose any time though. Able to stay in the draft of Watson. Try and get something done down the front straightaway. Close it up to where he's right on his rear gearbox. Filling up Watson's mirrors. Maybe forcing him into a mistake. Running mere inches off of that outside retaining wall. These cars, gap between Dave Sparks and Steven Thompson over half a second. These two are absolutely running away from the rest of the field, just like Nick Camargo and Watson did earlier. Both of these cars fighting for grip out here. Sliding all over this racing circuit. West Shire currently battling with Nick Camargo all over the rear tail tank of that vehicle. Or I guess they're gearboxes here in the Indy Pro 2000 cars. Unlike a sprint car that we saw earlier in the night, where they do have a fuel tank mounted to the rear, these things just have a gearbox. feature that is notably absent from Sprint Car. This has been Race Car Pedantry with Bizzle. Westshire not giving up the fight, though. Still running all over the rear gearbox of Nick Camargo, forcing him to dive deeper and deeper into each of these corners. That is going to be burning that right front tire up and slowing down that number 59 car on the long runs, allowing West to get by. Maybe not this lap, maybe not the next lap, but as we approach 5 minutes ago, I think that car is going to be well faster than Nick Camargo's. See just how much Wes is backing off in turn number 3. Really getting hard onto the binders, letting the car do the work as it enters the corner, and then wide open throttle as he comes off of it. This is still your closest battle on the racing circuit as we're nearing 15 minutes remaining here in tonight's feature event. Wes inching closer and closer to getting side by side with Nick Camargo. Looked like he was going to try it there in turns number 3 and 4. Decided to back out of it a little bit. Still going to run the low line, but not going to be alongside of Nick Camargo. Look now at race leader James Watson. He is still being chased down by Stephen Thompson, still keeping that gap about a quarter a second. After yesterday's Silver Crown disappointment, James could really use to pick me up from winning tonight's race. It would definitely help propel him in momentum in the Shock Series, as well as all of his future races during the week. It's really crushing when the first race of a week here at iRacing, you get wrecked out before you even take the green flag. So, hoping for a good finish for him, kind of bring him out of the rut and hopefully get some more wins. Maybe in the strength field races for these cars on the road courses on Thursday night. We slide a little bit further back. It's still going to be Westshire and Nick Camargo. Kind of just following each other, 1 and 2. Not really making any crazy moves happen. Not closing the gap to Dave Sparks. Just kind of sitting right where they are. So next up during the week of broadcasting excellence here on the National Race Network, this Thursday night at 9 o'clock, we will have these cars on the road course for the official series. That is going to be at Zolder, a fantastic circuit nestled in the hills of Europe. Zolder having some of the most fantastic chicanes that you can find here on the iRacing platform at any track anywhere in the world. I believe that final sector is on Wes Shire's list. I believe in either the S tier spot or the A tier spot of the chicane list he has with Dan Smith of the RIL. Race control checking in, letting me know that I am wrong about the chicanes at Zolder. This is America. We're allowed to be wrong. I don't think I'm wrong. M also checking in, saying it might be Zolder PTSD. I believe M, Watson, and Wes. I believe Brian Labarge was also involved in the 23-hour race at Zolder held by Jamie Broadbent. A lot of fantastic carnage happening in that race. So, yeah, I can see some PTSD from there. I tend to enjoy the track. So we slide back up to race leader race leader James Watson. Wow, I'm revealing the script. Wes is going to win this thing. Stephen Thompson still battling with Watson. Gap is now down to about 0.2 of a second, over 2.5 tenths. So very, very slowly is Stephen Thompson picking away at the gap. We have to see if Wes's words were true. Will some of these drivers have to stop for a splash and go? And is Wes going to be the only car to make it across that checkered flag without having to top off the tank? So now we are under the 10-minute mark. Only going to be 10 minutes remaining here, give or take a lap. The estimate now showing these drivers will have gone 158 laps. Currently working on lap 120, now lap 121 as James Watson crosses the stripe. Lap traffic starting to get in the way. Not quite an issue yet, but that is going to be Vic Aldrich in the number 98 machine. See if he steps out of the way for these leaders or forces them to find a way around him. Could be interesting to see if Steven can use that lapped car as a pick to try and get by James Watson, as he was right all over the rear gearbox. Huge check up by Watson. Watson's trying to go low, has to dive up high, almost contact there with Stephen Thompson. That stacks this whole field up, and out the top 5 are all in one big pack together. Wes making contact. Whitney Camargo sliding around through turn number 3. Somehow manages to save the race car. I don't know how that wasn't a caution there. That whole situation, it's amazing how quickly lap traffic can change the outlook of a race. We now have a 5-car battle for the lead. Gap is now under 0.1 of a second between race leader James Watson and the number 24 machine of Stephen Thompson. So now Thompson goes to the low side of James Watson. Watson having the back out of it. So does Thompson. Still side by side as they exit the corner. Thompson gets back at the line. That lap's going to go to James Watson once again. Steven going for the huge dive, gets into the left rear of Watson. How did he save that race car? That was incredible. try and go see if we could see that contact as they stepped into turn number 1. He didn't even lose the lead. He is still your race leader. Is Stephen Thompson having to go into the pits? Stephen Thompson was sustaining damage from that incident, but James Watson able to get away scot-free. Sometimes the netcode gods do the right thing. That was pretty cool to see. Side by side now is Wes Shire and Nick Camargo as they battle for the 3rd position. Watson going to try and run away from Dave Sparks. Currently still your fastest guy on track. Still holding the best lap. A record I don't think is going to fall here tonight. As the battle for 3rd is starting to turn into a battle for 2nd with Nick Camargo trying to close the gap on Dave Sparks. Oh, Sparks almost getting into the outside safer barrier. Has to check up out of it. That slows down Nick Camargo and allows Wes Shire to go side by side into turn number 1. Sparks once again slow off of turn 2. Nick Camargo is probably going to have to tap the brakes here, and Wes is going to go for yet another dive into turn number 3. Those two cars remain side by side as they come across the restart zone. That lap is going to have to go to Nick Camargo, barely edging out Wes Shire across the line. Almost contact between those two cars in turn number 1 and 2. Still inches apart as they go down the back straightaway. Knee closes the door on Wes Shire. Wes has to get on the binders. He's going to slide back to the 4th position. Stephen Thompson checking in the comments with the TNT logo. Yeah, that kind of blew up like some TNT, unfortunately. Race control letting us know short caution procedure is in effect. So if we go caution, it's going to be 1 lap of caution. 1 lap with the lights on the pace car. So that is your only opportunity to come down the pit lane. Lights are going to go out and we're going to go back to green. Stephen Thompson, might end up bringing the caution out. Exiting the pit lane, spins around on the inside of the track. He's going to have until these leaders come around to get that car off of the racing line. Does dive back into the pits. We stay under green. It's one of the many advantages of having live race control. Have to thank M. McCullen for doing the job of race control here for the TNT series. She is able to sit there and make those decisions and hold off. Don't hit the caution button until we're sure it has to come out. If those leaders would have come across start-finish line and that car was still on the apex of the corner, probably would have seen a caution, but we were able to have that judgment decision. Pole sitter Nick Camargo retaking the lead. Wes Shire trying to follow him through. Almost contact there again with James Watson. Right now, your 1, 2, and 3 across the line is going to be Camargo, Watson, and Shire. Huge shake-up from just 5 minutes ago in this race. Camargo now in that clean air. It's going to absolutely run away from the field once again. That gap almost up to 1/2 a second. It is now over 1/2 a second as Camargo lead the field. Watson's car seeming to have fallen off a good bunch. Last lap for him was a 19.398. Lap before that was a 19.397. So consistently about 0.3 of a second slower than Wes Shire. Almost wondering if there is a little bit of damage on that car. Almost contact there with Dave Sparks. Has to chase the car up the racetrack. Is able to safely make it across. Just over 2.5 minutes remaining. All Watson can do is hope these pair behind him keep on battling side by side like this, as his car is clearly slower now than it was just 5 minutes ago. And they do not. That is going to be Michael Long right behind Watson. Going to be doing everything he can to try and get himself up onto the podium spot. Watson goes for the big block in the turn number 3. Chops the nose off of Mike Long. Mike Long has to get on the binders. That's going to kill his run out of the corner, but it does have enough to almost make the dive in the turn number 1. Not quite, as now he has to contend with Dave Sparks on the inside. Watson still fighting as hard as he possibly can to hold off Mike Long. This is allowing Dave Sparks to catch back up and hopefully fight with Long. At least that's what Watson wants to see. Mike Long going to look to the high side of Watson. Watson pushing up the racetrack. I could have sworn there was a little bit of contact there as Long has to get on the brakes. Dave Sparks going to be on the inside of Long now as they exit turn number 2. Long with the huge run off of the back straightaway. He has to be getting frustrated now. Going to go for a big dive on Watson. Has to step on the brakes to avoid sliding up the racetrack. Brian Labarge is now a part of this fight as we are just under a minute to go. Mike Long once again. Huge run to the outside. Nothing Watson can do to defend this time. Mike Long is going to get the pass made on Watson. Watson falls back to the 4th position. Watson goes way below into the pit exit trying to get a move done. Not able to have it happen, and Sparks is going to have a huge run now. Watson blocking Dave Sparks all the way down to the yellow line. Watson once again has to chase it up the racetrack, able to hold on to the 4th position. Under 25 seconds remaining in this race. Going to be coming to the final set of laps here. Ten seconds remain. Lap traffic going to get into the way. As the time is running out. 2 seconds, 1 second. This will be the white flag lap this time, or this is the white flag this time. We do not run an extra lap here in TNT Shock. Nick Camargo is going to be your race winner here at Indianapolis Raceway Park. 151 laps for the driver of the 59 car, leading a whole hell of a lot of them. Can't tell you exactly how many, but it was definitely most of them. That was easily the most dominant car of the night. I believe this is his first win here in the Shock Series. Expect to see the Brazilian driver burn it down here. Parking it right on the start-finish line. Do we hear him dump the clutch and spin it around? Yes, we do. A little bit of a smoke show here out of the number 59 machine. Getting the official numbers in. 80 laps led for Nick Camargo in that number 59 machine. James Watson leading 68 laps and only 3 laps led by Westshire. I believe all of those coming under that caution period. A lot of donuts, a lot of burnouts for that number 59 car. See if he keeps it going. Going to do his victory lap here. As we queue up all of our drivers for the interviews, I'd like to say that was an absolutely fantastic show, as always, out of the TNT Shock Series. But up first is going to be third place finisher Mike Long, able to get it on the 3rd spot of the podium after what seemed to be a very difficult night out there on the racetrack. A little bit of a bobble there by James Watson. Looked like his car was getting a little bit slow, and you were able to get the move done on him.
Yeah, James was making the car a little wide there, that's for sure.
Oh yeah,
It wasn't, yeah, he was kind of weaving down the straightaway, which I didn't appreciate very much. But yeah, I had a setup that was been working, trying to do my own thing, and finally got a setup that lasted for a long time, and I was fast at the end. Um, so I got touched there early on, and that sent me back. But I thought, I'm just going to keep at it here and see what happens.
yeah, you were able to claw your way back all the way up to the third position. Watson definitely making that car very, very wide. A little bit of a bobble there by him, and you were finally able to get by. I was just saying, you have to be getting frustrated there, sitting in that fourth position, just dying to get by him.
Yeah, a little bit, but that's fine. James is always fast. I have a lot of respect for him, and I was trying not to crash us both there. So I just keeping my eye on what he was doing, and finally went to the outside and was able to really get on the gas there right in the middle of the corner, and that was enough to get by.
Hell yeah, well, did just enough to get the job done, put yourself in the third spot. Hopefully we're talking again next week. Any sponsor plugs, thank yous you want to get in for tonight?
Yeah, if I had a sponsor, that'd be good. Yeah, I actually just retired at the end of the year, so
Oh, congratulations.
yeah, the company I worked for is McFarland Johnson, and engineering company, and yeah, they made it possible for me to have all this fancy equipment. So
Hell yeah, well, why don't we get some of their logos up on your car? We'll send you some of our logos. You can slap them on there and hopefully get some names on the car for next week.
all right, thanks a lot.
No problem. Next up, we're going to bring in second place finisher Wes Shire, the only man with the strategy, it seemed like, here tonight. Tried to play the fuel game, didn't seem like it was an issue here for anyone, but still able to get on the second spot, man. A lot of hard racing you had to do. Had to claw your way up through the field.
Oh yeah, that was wild. I just had no pace the first half and just banging it off the walls like every couple of laps there. That was I had pretty much resigned myself to hoping to finish. Like 10 minutes before the caution, I started just trying lines, see if I could find something, and I did. Absolutely obliterated my right front, but man, that was.
You found something, and it was just enough to get on the second spot, and frankly, that's first for the rest of the field. I don't think there was any car out there that was catching the Camargo.
Yeah, no, he definitely had the car to beat, but yeah, apparently the trick is to use the apron at IRP. I'm baffled. I've never seen that. I've never had that happen before. I doubt it'll ever happen again, but
yeah,
it worked.
Perfect storm of, I guess, weather here tonight. Perfect weather conditions, perfect track conditions to get that bottom line to work. I don't think I've seen that in 60 years of racing here. So definitely a historic night here at IRP. Why don't we get some of your sponsor plugs, thank yous in?
As always, got to thank you guys for the broadcast. It's a shame Chris couldn't be here tonight, but yeah, it is what it is. So life happens. Of course, big shout out to everybody at TNT showing up, putting on this great racing, and Council for helping put everything together. And of course, big shout out to Homestead Coffee, keeping me awake and alert enough after the eclipse and the subsequent massive traffic last night to actually show up here and get some work done.
Wes driving from just outside of New York City all the way. Where'd you go? Up to Rochester to go watch the eclipse?
No, I took what was supposed to be a 3-hour trip up to Lake Placid area, and yeah, that turned into an 11.5-hour drive. So it is what it is.
Oh man, I do not miss living in New York. Here in Akron, all I had to do was walk outside of work for a little 5-minute break, and I got to look right up at the sky.
Yeah, lucky you.
Well, you have a great night, sir, and hopefully we're talking again next week.
Yep, thanks. Have a good one.
And last but certainly not least, we're going to bring in Nee Camargo. And unfortunately, Nee, I have some bad news for you.
What's it?
We're going to have to bring your car in for post-race tech, and you're going to have to take your engine home in a box. We are fully disassembling it, checking everything, because that car was bad fast all night. You set the pole, you ran away from the field in the first half by over 3 seconds, and then in the second half, you took the lead with 5 minutes to go and won the race by almost a full second.
Yeah, man, what was a great race, great setup. If I say that I was saving in the first part, you're going to be mad with me?
Oh man, don't say that. You're gonna make everyone else mad. Did you find the nitrous button? I mean, I don't think we've ever seen a performance out of that of any driver except maybe Oystein Walsh in the first season of TNT Shock.
Nah, man, it was a great setup. I really trained in it, so I had a good spot on it. I was just racing. It was good. It's a good car.
Hell yeah! Now, was this your first win here in the TNT Shock series?
It's technically the second one. The first one was at Motegi.
Oh, okay. Was that just a couple weeks ago? Short-term memory loss, I guess.
No, it was last season, middle of the last season.
Oh.
It is my first win this season, and it is my best worst season ever because that's the only second race I finished.
Oh man, well, definitely a good way to finish the second race that you were able to finish. So, no better spot than the top spot. Well, hopefully we're talking to you again next week, man. Why don't we get some of your sponsor plugs and thank yous in?
Yeah, man. Thanks for Mini Massacre Miniaturas, my main sponsor. TWR, they are great. They gave me the set. They train me all the time, so they are the ones that are responsible for me being here, and you guys for making this show possible.
Hell yeah, well, thanks for coming out. Always a pleasure talking to you. Always a pleasure watching you go out there and kick everyone's ass, for that matter. And hopefully we get to watch you do it again next week.
Thanks, man.
Fantastic racing here tonight. I still think we need to tear down Nee's car. There is something bad fast about that thing. But James Watson was also really fast in the early part of the session. Did say he got the setup from TWRS. So I have to say, they nailed it tonight. And unfortunately, James Watson finishing just outside of the podium. Still a very respectable fourth place finish for him. And great points tonight for everyone involved. But that is going to be it for me here on the National Race Network for tonight's Tuesday night events. Hopefully we'll be speaking to you again on Thursday night, where we have the PM18 cars, these same cars, called them USF 2000 Pro cars now, at the Zolder Speedway. Or, it's not really a speedway, it's more of a bunch of chicanes looped together, some right and left-hand turns. Fantastic racing going to be happening there. That'll be at 9 o'clock on Thursday night. But until then, that is all for me. You all have a very fantastic night.